Let's talk about how companies maintain confidentiality. The goal of confidentiality is to protect sensitive data. Okay, so what does sensitive data mean? Take a moment, think about what is some data that companies would have that they would not want other people to get access to. Some examples here might be a social security number, someone's credit card or payment information, the password that they use to access company systems, health records, and especially companies are very concerned about intellectual property. Unpublished ideas, patents, and specific technology that gives them a competitive advantage. So all these things we want to protect, and more specifically, with this sensitive data, we want to protect the storage of the data and the sharing of data across networks. So here we have a simple computer network. I have a terminal on this side, which could be a laptop or a phone or something else, and I have a server over here that contains sensitive data. We have some pretty serious threats to that activity. Here I'm going to draw my attacker computer. He looks fierce. And the attacker can get access to data in a number of different ways. One way to get access to sensitive information is go directly to the source. So this malicious user could resort to hacking to gain access to my server by stealing someone's username or password through social engineering, or by brute force attack by trying every potential letter and number combination to gain access. If they can't get to the server directly, they may go to the end user's terminal and get them to install spyware. Spyware that's installed on the user's computer will allow the attacker to see all of the activity on that computer, for example, when they log in with a username and password, and transfer it back to the attacker's computer, which the attacker can then use to gain access to the server. Another thing an attacker could do is they could set up a fake server that is designed to look like the server that you're trying to access. Here's my evil server. And I will divert traffic from the legitimate source to my copied source in order to get that information. This frequently involves a technique called spoofing, where I spoof somebody's internet address or IP address. And then I use an attack called phishing, where I post a web page that looks like your bank's login and get you to enter in your data in the form so that I can use that to gain access to the server. One way that you can tell that you're at a phishing website, besides the security icon in your web browser, is that if you go to log in and you click OK, it will take you to a page and it will typically say, "I'm sorry, the server is down for now, please try again later." If you see that sign, chances are somebody has just scraped your username and password, and they're going to go now try to gain access to your account. Another attack vector is something called a man-in-the-middle attack, or an evil twin. In this case, what I'll do is I will set up a router, a Wi-Fi router, and I'll call it something like free public Wi-Fi. Or even better, I will mimic a company's wireless network or an airport's wireless network. So now the user's computer will connect to this free public Wi-Fi, which we call an evil twin. And they'll be able to see all of the traffic that I am sending to the server, including usernames and passwords. Because I'm going through this other party, this is why we call it a man-in-the-middle attack. All right, so here we have some threats to data confidentiality. If I can gain access to a user's computer, I can steal sensitive information. If I can steal their username and password, I can get sensitive information off of a company's server. So how do we control for this? The primary control that we have in place to protect data confidentiality is encryption. What encryption means is that I take something like a message, let's just say hello, and if I encrypt my files on my computer, even if an attacker gets a hold of my computer, all they will see is gibberish. So @HQ X $. Because I've taken that message and I've translated it into something that doesn't make any sense unless you have a specific key. We call this encryption at rest, meaning we're encrypting files locally where they are stored. A popular application of encryption is something called a VPN, or Virtual Private Network. A virtual private network creates a tunnel through the internet and hides all of my activity between the terminal and the server. So again, if I'm trying to get this message across, it's stored on the server. Anything that's going between me and that computer is hidden. The attacker will see that I'm talking to the server, but they won't be able to see the specific message. They'll only see this gibberish text. We call this encryption in motion. So protecting data while it's in transit from one computer to the next. A VPN is equally effective if I'm connecting through an evil twin or a man-in-the-middle attack, because even though I'm connected to this rogue Wi-Fi router, all they're going to see is that I'm connected in a bunch of gibberish text, but they won't be able to extract the confidential, sensitive data. This is why it's always recommended when you connect to a public Wi-Fi hotspot that you enable some sort of VPN connection when you're connecting to do sensitive data, like banking or connecting to your work network. Most companies provide a VPN access point to their employees. You can also get some of these off the shelf through web browsers like Firefox or standalone programs. Most of the VPNs that are reliable and secure will charge a monthly fee. Now, I'm talking a lot about encryption and that we're securing messages. I want to take a moment more and describe a little bit about what that encryption process looks like. Assume that I have a message that I want to share. Hello. We call this plain text, meaning that if I look at it on a computer screen, I can read it hello, I understand what it means, and it's perfectly plain. Before I send this, I'm going to take this message and I'm going to encrypt it. And what encryption means is that I'm going to take it and I'm going to use a key to convert this into something that we call ciphertext. And ciphertext means that instead of seeing the characters hello, I'm going to see some gibberish characters like hashtag ABG1. Anybody intercepting this message will know that there's a message there, but they won't know what it says. In order for somebody to read this message, they're going to have to take that ciphertext and they will need to decrypt it, meaning they're going to unlock the message using a key. By decrypting the message, I convert the ciphertext back into plain text, so I can now read the message. Now, there are a number of ways that encryption works. At a very basic level, I could be taking the message and shifting it one letter over. So let's say that we shift this left. Hello becomes GDKKN by shifting the letters. And then when I decrypt it, if I know that the key is to shift the letters back over, I end up with hello. This is based on something called a Caesar cipher that was used back in ancient Rome. In modern environments, we're going to do a calculation using the key to come up with a more complex and more secure answer that's less easily hackable than this one. Finally, in encryption, there are two types of encryption that we see today. One is symmetric encryption, the other is asymmetric encryption. If the key used to encrypt is also used to decrypt it, we call this symmetric, meaning that there is one key shared between them. A good example of this would be the PIN that you use on your phone. That 6-digit code is what allows you to access your contents. Without that 6-digit code, anybody looking at your phone data would just see gibberish. So you use the PIN to lock it when you lock your phone, and the PIN to unlock it when you pull it back open. The other method, asymmetric, uses one key to encrypt the message. And we'll call this a public key. And then we'll use a second key called a private key to decrypt the message. So you have to use one key on one side of the equation and the other key on the other side of the equation. You can never use the same key twice. These two keys are linked together, and we call this asymmetric encryption. We see this frequently with email servers. So for example, if I send a Gmail message to another Gmail user, their username or some token related to that will be used to encrypt it, so when it's stored on Google servers, nobody can read it without having our password to access it. An example of the private key may be something like a username and password. So the username may be used to encrypt the message that I send on a Gmail server, but they would need their password to decrypt the message and be able to read it. This is frequently how end-to-end encryption works when you're working with messaging services like WhatsApp or Gmail or other services. So that's encryption for us. This is once again how encryption can help us maintain data confidentiality and keep sensitive information safe when it's stored on a device or when it's transferring across the internet. What are some other threats that you can identify to networks or to sensitive data? Think about it, and I'll see you in the next video.